Hello and welcome. My name is Ariel Turner. I am the founder and coach with True You Recovery Coaching. This is the second episode in my podcast series titled The Role That Dopamine Plays in Addiction and Recovery. I love talking about recovery and addiction. I have personal recovery, which I shared in the first episode. I'm coming up on about 5 years clean and sober. This topic is not just important for me, though. It is estimated that nearly 50 million people struggle with addiction in the United States currently. I would imagine that that number is actually much higher, but that is what studies show. If you are listening to this, it's possible that you are struggling. Maybe you have a family member or friend. Nonetheless, this is a national crisis, and it's important that we talk about this openly. Before we get into the role that dopamine plays, it's important to talk about the definition of addiction. What is addiction? You have likely heard differing opinions. Some think that addiction is a moral failing where those that struggle have choice. 12-step programs will say that addiction is a 3-part disease: the physical allergy, mental obsession, and a spiritual malady. If you are one who believes that addiction is a moral failing, I am very sorry to break it to you, but science and research has proven that addiction is a disease. According to the American Society of Addiction Medicine, also known as ASAM, addiction is defined as a primary chronic disease of brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. When there is dysfunction in these areas, you get symptoms in almost every area of biological, psychological, social, spiritual. It affects every part of the person. It changes chemistry in the brain. A disease can be defined as being chronic, progressive, and treatable. And that's exactly what addiction is. Now let's get to dopamine. By the way, everything quoted in this video will be science-based and backed by research. It is really important to understand the role that dopamine plays in the formation of addiction and also what it means to someone who's in early recovery. Let's break it down a little bit. On a normal day, a non-addicted person wakes up in the morning, has their cup of coffee, goes to work. Maybe they're in a decent mood. They come home, have dinner, maybe do some chores, and end their day with watching their favorite show, maybe binge watching some Netflix. In that example, the brain has about 50 nanograms of dopamine. Now, imagine your perfect day. What would that look like for you? This can look a little different for anyone, but let's say you win the lottery or you take your perfect vacation. Maybe it's the birth of your first child. Maybe you're getting married. Think about what that would feel like. Imagine you are in your perfect day. Now, that day, for a non-addicted person, you would have 100 nanograms of dopamine. Now, to put this in perspective, if you were to take an opioid, drink alcohol, smoke some marijuana, snort some cocaine, you can experience highs of about 1,000% more. So take a pain pill, and now you have about 1,100 or so nanograms of dopamine. Let that sink in. That is incredible. The brain was not meant to handle that much dopamine. Herein lies the formation of addiction. Someone who is trying drugs for the first time experiences a massive rush. They feel amazing. Now, you have just taught the brain that if you do this thing, you feel great. You do it again. Over time, through repetition, the brain is no longer receiving those high levels of dopamine. This is how tolerance begins. Once you remove it, this is when withdrawal happens. Now, in someone who's actively addicted, they are teaching their brain that, hey, you don't have to make dopamine anymore. I know this is a normal part of brain function for all humans, but I got this. I'm going to give it to you. So the brain stops making it. So when someone enters into detox or a treatment center and they no longer have their substance of choice, their brain has literally forgotten how to make dopamine. Hence, withdrawal symptoms. Hence, a lot of the common symptoms that are experienced in early recovery, such as anxiety, depression, lack of motivation, and the list goes on and on and on. Therefore, why is this information important? If we can take a step back for a moment and realize that we have retrained our brain and that we need to be patient with ourselves if we're the one in that position, or with others, with loved ones who are in early recovery, we can understand that the brain needs time to get back to normal. Until the brain can learn how to reach normal levels of dopamine once again, which, by the way, in early recovery, an addict or an alcoholic's brain can be as low as, let's say, 10 nanograms per day. Research says that to get out of bed, you need about 20. So individuals who experience clinical depression, they would be right around that 20 mark. So and not just an addict or an alcoholic, anyone struggling with addiction, even behavioral addictions, when you're in early recovery, you could be at bottom levels where you don't even have motivation to get out of bed to try and attend treatment. So, how do we get dopamine? If my brain can't make it, what am I supposed to do? Keep in mind that typical activities that give us a dopamine rush, things like eating a cookie or engaging in activities that we enjoy, sex, exercise, doing something new, having fun, being around loved ones, hanging out with friends. In early recovery, those activities will not have the same feeling. They will not have the same rush, and they definitely will not create the same level of dopamine that it would compared to a non-addicted person. So patience is definitely key. To continue that thought, we have to consistently give ourselves dopamine over and over and over again in every way that we possibly can to try and help our brains remember this is something that we need, and brain, you are responsible for doing it for me now on your own. I love this concept. I tell a lot of my clients that a goal should be to increase joy in their daily lives. And that sounds simple, but it's actually a little harder than you would think. But if you can visualize every single choice that I make throughout my day, how can I make this choice happy for me? So the food that I eat, what I watch, what I listen to, who we talk to. Be conscious with your decisions and with your choices. Now, especially with food, I understand that we cannot just live off of ice cream and cookies and pizza, although it would be nice. But you may say, well, those are the foods that make me really happy. What's the compromise? If I want to eat healthy, but I also want to enjoy my food, here's an idea. Think about all of your favorite meals and then say, if this is unhealthy, what's the healthy version that I can create? There's so many recipes online. Find what that is and then do it. Why not? Let's eat what we like. Make playlists of your favorite songs. those songs that make you want to just get up and dance, that bring those feel good dopamine feelings to you. Listen to those playlists. Same with movies, same with surrounding ourselves with people that make us laugh. I'm sure you have that one friend that just makes you laugh so hard, you feel like you're either going to pee your pants or you're just crying and your stomach hurts. Talk to that person more. And if you don't have a person like that, find one. If you can't find one, maybe watch some TikTok. But you get the idea. Create your own joy. Find happiness as much as possible throughout your day. Now, the catch with this is that when someone is in early recovery, they will lack motivation to do these things, even though doing them can be a huge lifesaver and can progress the recovery process along and allow the brain to heal. So my advice to family members or friends of those who are struggling in an early recovery, if you can remember the role that dopamine plays, not only can you help encourage them, but you can be a part of that. You can make suggestions and say, let's go out to your favorite restaurant this weekend. We don't have to talk about what's going on. Let's just have fun. We have to open our arms and support those that are struggling and help them get back up. And having fun and focusing on dopamine is one of the best ways to do it. I personally have found focusing on dopamine in that way, how can I get it today, instead of what do I need to do today, was transformational in my healing process. And I didn't even realize that's what I was doing when I was doing it. I was able to look back after learning more about this topic and see it worked. So, fun facts and great advice. If you're struggling, please know that there is hope. You don't have to reach out to me. I am available as a coach, but just talk to someone. There are so many different treatment centers. There are so many resources available today. You do not have to suffer in silence. This concludes the end of my second podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and never forget the power of dopamine. Thank you.